1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on, episode 28 now.
Okay, I'm glad you're keeping track.
Firmly into the second half year of this podcast's life. Yeah. So I did have a topic for this morning, not to belabor the point too much, but you seem to say that you've got something.
I've always got something to talk about.
All right, I'll defer. In most of the things I want to talk about, I'm like, should we talk about that on the podcast?
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So, what did you have?
So, the first of my two quandaries. Quandary works. Anyway, is what's your view on games that give you the option of stealth or loud, or a bit of both, and also games that have done just that, but they have pushed you, strongly suggested that you go down a particular route.
Okay, so first of all, the whole stealth versus non-stealth approach thing, I know you're asking this because you've been playing the Hitman games.
It is.
But, I mean, I also played Cyberpunk recently, that also, in a lot of cases, you had stealth options. I find that in a lot of cases, the stealth option tends to be more satisfying, whereas the loud option is more lazy. Because especially if it's an FPS, like, played quite a bit of those in my days, and I'm not to brag, but I'm actually pretty good at them. If I just go in guns blazing, especially against NPC opponents, they're gone. Like that would just be okay. We're done, easy.
Yeah, but a game like if Doom had a stealth element, you would not do the stealth element, would you?
Stealth would never work in Doom.
No, it wouldn't. But
you're kind of so in games that have a stealth or a non-stealth option, it's typically designed that way. I personally have found it's rare for a game to have the combat option be as satisfying as the stealth option.
I don't know. I quite often find that the combat is more satisfying. So take Hotline Miami, right?
Oh well, okay. Again, you're thinking of a completely different type of game.
Well, it's a game where you can do it stealthily or you can do it loud.
You can do stealth in Hotline Miami?
Yeah, I mean, if you fire off a machine gun, then everyone in the building is going to come running. If you walk around with a knife, like throwing knives into people, knocking them out, etc.
Alright, well, I've never played. So, for reference, people that don't know, Hotline Miami is a top-down, 80s disco fever dream of a game where you just go into a building and murder everyone in there.
Yeah, you get assigned contracts from your apartment, and you basically go out and fight the Russian mob in Miami. Really good game.
Yeah, honestly, from what I've seen of the game, it would have never occurred to me that there even was a stealth option.
Yeah. There's
to give you an idea of when you ask this question, what I'm thinking of games like what is it called? It starts with a D.
Deus Ex.
No, not Deus. Well, Deus Ex is a good example.
That's the first one that I think of.
Deus Ex is a good example. So is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's one of the first ones that I've found that a hybrid approach is actually just as satisfying. Because the game does a good job of not judging you when you fuck up the stealth.
Right.
It's combat started, time to blow people's heads off.
Yeah. Yeah, the MGS series has always been...
Yep.
If you can stealth, then excellent. What I quite often find is...
Dishonored. The game was called Dishonored. Sorry.
Okay. I've seen bits of that, but I haven't played it. The games quite often... Which is a good thing and a bad thing, really, but if you go down the stealth route, the gameplay is stretched out a lot more. You're waiting for the perfect timing to execute the perfect plan, so it takes a lot longer. But you normally get rewarded with, more XP, more stars, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dishonored is probably a good example, and Hitman maybe not be the perfect comparison, but Dishonored is the same sort of thing. You're waiting for the guards to walk around, you're finding creative paths around people, but Dishonored goes a step further. Like, well, I guess Hitman does it too with the star rating at the end of the missions, but in Dishonored, you've got a good and a bad ending, and you can only get the good ending if you went like the stealthy no-kill approach.
Oh, I would hate that.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
that's the... In games like that, I feel like I'm obligated to take the stealth approach.
yeah, it's like they've put in the mechanic where you can go loud. Like, the mission doesn't instantly fail when you go loud, but your points just drop off to nothing, and you feel like the game's berating you for playing it the way that you want to play it, which is kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really satisfying when you complete it in stealth, but then if you make like even a tiny mistake and you lose like half an hour worth of playtime, it is gutting, and it quite often makes me want to walk away from a game.
There is that, but Hitman has the approach of, like, its levels are like puzzles. There's a lot of ways you can go through them and, eliminate your target, and different disguises, different approaches you can take. So that one, I judge it a little less because there's an element of fuck around and have fun to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's more the case in the early levels. That's why I kind of like them, because they're a lot more, you can dick around basically and come up with something. You can, go after the president of France or whatever in a clown costume with a rubber duck explosive. That's fine. But when you get to later levels, it's like, no, you've got to do it you got to follow this exact kind of narrative.
I haven't gotten that far. I think I only have like the first chapter worth of missions. I got them free on the Xbox, so I've played through the missions that you're doing, but I haven't gotten that far.
Right. Yeah, and I played. So I've only just come back to it, man. I played it when it came out, I think, and I haven't played it since. And I was watching some YouTube.
Sorry, just thinking for the benefit of people who don't know, the Hitman series is a series of video games where you play this cold, emotionless, bald dude who disguises himself. It's a very arcadey kind of game, but it's a 3D third-person shooter. You get a level, and you get a target and an objective, and then it's up to you to go through the level and figure out how to do it. Are you going to... A target to assassinate, I should clarify. Are you going to disguise yourself as, like, his butler and then shank him in the back? Are you going to drop a chandelier on his head? Are you going to poison his wine? Like, there's typically a bunch of different ways you can accomplish your goal. But yeah, just figured I should clarify that. Go on. You were watching YouTube.
So I was watching YouTube and I saw some people playing Hitman, the next version of Hitman, which is technically in the same game still, but it's a different game. I don't know. I was watching them and I was like, they're terrible, lol, it's hilarious, I'm gonna play and kick ass. And I got back on it after all this time and I'm like, oh my god, I can't do jack. So it's one of those, like, football-esque things where you're behind the TV, you're like the best person in the universe, but on the pitch you're like, oh, I'm not very good at this.
Yeah. The whole armchair general effect.
Exactly. But yeah, as you said, there's some really creative methods and quite ridiculous ones as well. Yeah. I know there's one where you get someone to stand in a particular place by turning on the intercom so that his soldiers who are bad-mouthing him, he hears that, and then he goes over to tell them off. You go up to the floor above and drop a toilet through a hole in the floor onto the guy's head to kill him. Like,
this is what I meant when I said the game is very arcadey, because there's all this ridiculous stuff that you could do. Like, this bald person, when I said you can dress up like his butler, I wasn't kidding. Like, even if his butler has an afro, you, as this pale, bald dude, can wear the butler's costume, and no one will be the wiser.
Sometimes he wears wigs. Sometimes. I mean, but most of the time, it's like, oh, my friend who just went around the corner to, investigate a noise, he's come back and,
now he's scowly and bald.
He was African American, now he's Caucasian. It's a bit like, okay, cool. suspend the disbelief.
But yeah, but again, the game is ridiculous, which is part of what makes it fun.
Absolutely. But yeah, so in Hitman in particular, there's like you really can't go loud.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you just shoot the guy and walk out, then for a start you'll get like no points. So every time you complete a mission, you get a certain amount of mastery points, which basically means that you can play when you play the level next time. You'll have new tools you can use. You can start in new places. And you'll have more assets unlocked, so you could do more things. So obviously it's not very special, and you wouldn't get many challenges completed if you just walked up and shotgunned him in the chest and walked out.
Yeah.
That's where the like toilet dropping and poisoning and stuff comes in.
I do want to recall what I said earlier with Cyberpunk. I really do think, the more I think about it, the more I agree with what I said, that the Cyberpunk game, Cyberpunk 2077, like it had a very good I think approach to stealth versus non-stealth. I mean, you were stealthy not because you didn't want to be seen, but because maybe you couldn't kill your target, or maybe you had no health because your character's a piece of shit. And if you went loud because you were lazy and just didn't care about the NPCs in front of you. So they do a very good job of that. I by the end of the game, I beat almost everything in that game, so I was super over-leveled. I had like so many cyber modifications that I could afford to do go loud and stay stealthy at the same time. Like I'd go in, ping a camera, it would show me the locations of all the enemies, I'd take out everyone I could while they weren't looking, I'd use a silenced pistol to take out a few more. If someone saw me, I'd hack their brains so they no longer knew I was there. Like, there were ways to get around that, and I was able to stealthily and like rapidly and stealthily clear an area.
Well, so as you know, I'm this is kind of related to that. So where you say you can like hack someone's brain to make them forget you, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know how difficult it is to actually hack into someone's brain.
Well,
in the game.
In that game, it's pretty damn easy.
You know how much I love the Payday franchise, right?
Yeah.
So in the original Payday game, there was no like question marks, then exclamation marks, then they would call, and then the alarm would go, and then everyone on the map knew that you were a criminal.
Yeah.
Right? In the first one, someone saw you, alarm's gone. Everyone in the building knows that you're a criminal and where you are. Also, I don't think you could actually... So there was definitely stealth missions in it, but you couldn't finish any of the missions in stealth. So, like, there was one where you'd break into this massive high-rise building, it's got a vault in it, you get the codes, you shut down the security locks, you manage to sneak into the vault, but you can't... Oh wait, maybe you could fully stealth that one. But there is like a red diamond in a special case, which I know you could not break without. The moment you like touch the glass, the whole building goes wild. I think it's actually the same with. I think if you smashed any of the glass cases, because you had to smash some of them to get the loot out. So yeah, there was like. It rewarded you for being in stealth, but only up to a certain point, and then you realise, hang on, I've got all my stealth gear on, and they've got machine guns. So, that was, I think, a very bad way of doing stealth. I mean, obviously, in Payday 2, they made it a lot better. I think Payday 2 is an excellent stealth game, but...
That's the thing, like, I'm thinking, you mentioned Deus Ex earlier, the original Deus Ex, the one from like the early 2000s.
I've only played one of them. We say this every time.
Yeah, okay. So it's an old computer game. It looks very dated now, but it was kind of one of the pioneers in like RPGs with, or like a shooter RPGs, essentially. meaning that, it's first-person shooter, but you have leveling mechanics, you have skills and things that you can level up and develop your character over time. It had a tranquilizer gun that may be the least stealthy weapon I can ever think of in a video game that's supposed to be stealthy.
I mean, tranquilizer darts would be silent, right?
You'd think. So what the tranquilizer gun actually does is you shoot someone, the dart hits them, then they run around screaming at the top of their lungs for like a minute, and then they fall over. It's like, that is the opposite of tranquil.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like, God. People in Payday 2 that think that a taser, because it's a melee weapon, is a silent kill. So they tase a guard and he starts firing off his gun all over the goddamn room.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because the only way in Deus Ex to take a stealthy approach, the original one, is to use the taser, because the tranquilizer gun doesn't do what it's fucking supposed to do. So you have to get up, like, you have to learn their walking patterns and get up close to them and then tase them. Otherwise, otherwise the only option is to just, sneak past people.
Yeah. I see. Well, the other thing that I was, I've been entertaining myself with all week has been speed runs.
Oh, yeah. Do you watch Games Done Quick?
I do. Well, it certainly rings a bell.
Yeah. Games Done Quick, for those that don't know, is a charity that what they do is they do, like, I think it's twice a year. They do a summer and a winter one. And they'll get a bunch of people who speedrun video games together and get them to speedrun some games, and then during the gameplay, people will, donate money, and it goes to different things. They have a bunch of charities. They're usually something like, cancer research, homeless shelters, things like that. So it's a cool thing, and I enjoy watching them. They're actually pretty entertaining. But go on. Which is there a speed run in particular that you watched that got to you?
I was I was watching someone on YouTube called Easy Speezy.
Okay.
And have you heard of him?
No. I'm just laughing at the name.
He does some quite ridiculous speed runs, and I was like, I wonder if this game has been speed run. So I went on the speedrun website. And looked up all these really weird games that have been speedrunned. For example, Heroes of the Storm has a speedrun challenge.
What?
Which is to start a custom game with no allies and no enemies, and you have to win 3 matches. Which seems like the dumbest thing. Like, if it was just you have to start a game on AI with expert difficulty, and the fastest person to complete that on their own with AI, that seems like a good speedrun, right?
I guess?
Because it's like there's a level of RNG to it, what enemies you get, what allies you get, and how quickly you can defeat them. But when it's an empty map with just minions and you,
I mean,
it's rather boring to watch.
I personally, I like watching the speed runs where people find, like, I like watching old games speed run. So like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, I saw a speed run of that where, like, there's just the way there's a well in that game. And the well is normally filled with water when you're a kid, and then later in the game transitions between, like, when you're a kid and when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Because you can travel back and forth in time. When you're a kid, the well is full of water. When you're an adult, it's not. And you can get down to the bottom there, and there's a whole dungeon at the bottom. Now, yeah. No. I might be getting that backwards. I think there's something
Anyway.
there's something you can do to drain the water, but the person just walked up to the well, like, used the block button, ran against the wall, and backflipped, and managed to glitch through the water mechanics down to the bottom, and just walked into the dungeon early. I love seeing stupid shit like that in speed runs because I one of the most enjoyable bits for me is watching them like break games that I actually really like and just skipping huge portions.
The biggest game for that I've seen is Mario 64. The the power slide backwards move. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep, I know the one you're talking about.
They go across like 32 versions of the map to get to a very particular point on the... It's science beyond what I understand. But the tricks they do in there are just mind-boggling. And I think they've got it down to like 12 minutes to complete the game now.
It's hilarious, some of the things. One of the things I saw recently was... it was somebody doing a speed run, but it was pre-recorded, and they had the developers of the game watching the person do the speed run.
Yeah. And
I think the one in particular that I was watching was, there's a game, Outer Worlds, I think it is.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah.
Outer Worlds is, I actually enjoyed that game. It had its flaws, but it's made by the same people who made Fallout New Vegas. And to give you kind of a quick rundown, it's just a sci-fi RPG shooter, where you end up with a ship, you get a crew of companions, you do missions and quests, and then at the end you defeat a big bad corporation and then save the day. It's fairly standard stuff in terms of the story, and it's got a little bit of a wacky setting to add to that. But watching the person beat it, like the person figured out that it was quicker to kill every NPC in the game than to actually complete any of their quests.
Yeah.
I think the person just like went through the first level in like 5, and there was one point where where the person does something to glitch their way into a room, and the developer was just like, "Wait a minute, they can do that?"
Yeah.
It's just like it was hilarious to like listen to their stunned reactions when people were busting the game.
Yeah, there was the I don't know, there was 3 of them anyway, wasn't there? And one of the things they said was that they kind of knew it would become a speedrun game, and so they purposefully left a couple of things in for the speedrunners, I think it was.
Yeah. I'm always a fan of game developers that think about the things their audience will do and don't want you to just play the game we want the game played.
Yeah, exactly. It's left it a bit freeform. And I don't think they would have fixed any of the things that they saw, because none of them broke the game for the normal person. The only person that would ever find these glitches are people who are actively trying to speedrun the game. So it's not doing any harm.
Oh god, the Doom Eternal people. I watched them watch a speed run of their game.
I haven't seen that one.
And the guy is like glitching out and like flying through the air, like high above the map. And one of the developers was saying like, we should do something to like troll them. Like, we in the next game, like just outside the map up here, just insert a random wall that just says "fuck you," and when they hit it, they fall back into the map and reset. Like, it was hilarious listening to, like, because that's the sort of fucked up shit that like we would think of doing just to fucking mess with people.
Have you seen the one with the Half-Life developers?
I have, yeah. By the way, this is no longer topics. This is just us talking about funny videos we've seen.
Well, it's speedrunning.
Well, it's speedrunning, but really we're just laughing about these videos. All right, go on.
One of the points where the speedrunner obviously couldn't like go any faster than he currently was. He was waiting for something to happen, right? And he just started stacking a chair and a toilet roll and a bookcase on top of it, and just kept piling these things, and then.
God.
Just because he was bored, but it was such precise skill. I was like, the developer was like, "What's he doing? Is this some crazy?" Oh no, he's just showing off. Okay, and then a little ways down the world, there's the part with the boat, the hoverboat that goes over the toxic water, and he's like, "Oh, great! This is the mission that it took me months to make." And the guy just flies over it, and he's like, "Oh, that took me months to design that."
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of funny stuff in speedrunning.
Yeah. And it is... I mean, it's quite... They're usually entertaining videos to do, and there's varieties for everyone. There are people... there are versions of speedruns where you can't glitch at all. It's like you have to beat the game, or there's like you have to complete the game with 100% items or something like that.
Yes, there's the normal ones are like any percent, which is just where you complete the game as fast as you can without getting any of the bonus stuff.
Yeah.
There's deathless quite often, where you're not allowed to die. One of my favourites that I've watched a few people do fairly recently, and is quite amazing, is Blindfolded Runs.
Jesus.
Where they do like, again, it was a Mario 64 one, and they needed to complete the entire game. So they do use glitches and things.
Yeah.
But they can't see the screen at all for the whole game, and they have to rely on like, when you pick up Bowser by the tail and spin him around.
I mean, yes, I do.
Depending on where he's configured, the noise for the whoosh noise when he spins is slightly different. So they can work out where he is and where the bombs are.
God.
That they have to throw him into. It's nutso and amazing.
I mean, it's not... I mean, it's not the same in any capacity, but it's... I remember back in the heyday of Guitar Hero...
oh, yeah.
People memorizing and doing those things without looking, blindfolded. There was... my freshman year of college, we were playing Guitar Hero 3, and we had a wireless guitar, and one of my friends was on bass for this one the song was fairly easy on bass, but he was playing it on expert, and we're in the room playing, and then he just like, all right, I'm gonna go take a walk, and like he just walked outside of the dorm room and started walking around the hallway, and the wireless connection kept him connected, and he didn't miss any of the fucking notes.
Really? Holy shit. How do you know when the song started?
Oh, the song had started before he left the room.
Oh, okay. Right. Damn, that's style.
Yeah. He was, yeah. It was pretty good. But we all obsessively played that game. That being said, I don't think I could play most of the songs without looking.
No, I don't think I could do any games without looking, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess games like Beat Saber would probably be the easiest, because it's literally... I mean...
Yeah.
There's less things to think about, because it's mostly just you keep in the beat, and then just... a lot of it is the same notes, you just have to hit them in the right order. Which I guess is like Guitar Hero, but Guitar Hero is a lot faster, I think.
I've always been... not always, but it's something that fascinates me. The kind of drive to master seemingly meaningless skills.
Yeah.
It is a very satisfying thing when you like accomplish something. Like even if what you accomplish matters to literally no one but you. It's fulfilling in a way.
I mean, if you take those like Tetris masters out there, right?
Mm.
They are a sight to behold. Because they are just I guess their cognitive thought process is so fast, so agile, and you're just sitting there and like, what the fuck? How are they doing that? They must be cheating. But like it's not a skill you can transfer to anything else. I feel like
it isn't, but there's something to be said about the way it kind of trains your mind to work. Because I wonder I was actually wondering about this last night, because I was on with Yi before we were waiting for Duncan and people to get back, and we were watching T-Pain's stream. T-Pain is a Twitch streamer. He's a gamer now. I can't keep up with real life.
Who's T-Pain?
He's a rapper.
Oh.
So like. I'll show you a clip after this, like in between segments, because it really is honestly hilarious to watch him. But he was saying, like, in his intro, he was mentioning something about kind of the benefits of letting people play. Like, I can't remember what it was. Oh no, he said, gamers making more than pop stars these days. Parents, let your kids play. Was what he said, and he said it kind of offhand. But it made me think. There probably is a point to be made about mastering certain games the same way, mastering a sport or an instrument really helps your mind, like, develop, and it wires it in a certain way. And I wonder if maybe playing games and playing the right kind of games and actually mastering them, it wires your brain in a way that could be beneficial in real life.
Yeah, like doing lots of puzzle games would help you with thinking outside the box.
Right, problem solving, lateral thinking.
Well, I've always kind of now this could be just an excuse that I lied to myself with.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of told myself that the games kind of they're a source of creativity, and so when I'm doing designs and things, a lot of my designs aspects come from the games that I play.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the things that I want to maybe draw or create are similar to something that I've seen in the game. So I suppose that's kind of like an outlet I get from it, creative outlet.
It's the same. I've experienced a similar thing, which is why I guess that point resonated with me. In my professional life, like, there's a lot of situations where I'm tasked with trying to, solve a problem. I was an engineer for years, and that's a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, because that's how I approach a video game. Like, you go into a situation and you have to kind of, in a lot of instances, kind of assess what you're looking at very quickly and come up with, potential solutions and then choose one. And if you don't, sometimes you get shot in the face. So, I that's the approach I take in my professional life too. Like, it's like, hey, here's a problem, and usually I can, like, crank out a solution in minutes, if not hours. And I don't know. I personally put that, but again, maybe I'm just lying to myself. I personally put that down to the many hours I spent playing video games growing up, and still to this day.
What about do you think that video games have improved your social skills? Because the reason I'm saying this, there's two reasons actually. For one, because obviously you meet some nice people online, and I mean, hell, that's how I met you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's broadening a network of people that you know. But the thing that originally made me think this thought was putting up with all of the shite you get.
That was the first thing that I thought of.
People.
That was literally the first thing I thought of. But yeah, no, and then it does say something that the first thing I thought of was all the shit talking, and then the second thing I thought of was, I've actually met some good people.
Yeah.
I'd say so. I mean, not only that, I feel like it really is it helps you to, like, thicken your skin a little bit, because a lot of people out there are dicks, and even the people who aren't, like, purely dicks, they're capable of being a dick. And on the internet, especially on online gaming, you kind of get that in full force. And so it kind of, I think it builds up your tolerance for when stressful and intense situations happen in real life.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it helps with, like, confrontation. Like, God knows if half the people were, like, in your room screaming this stuff at you, it would be terrifying. But at least the words that they're saying become dull to you because you hear them every day.
If they were in my room saying that shit, I'd smack them in the face. Like, it wouldn't stay a conversation very long.
But so I don't know. Maybe it is.
But
that does have its good side.
I think you're right. I think there's a good side. The downside, I think, is you get used to get used to conversation that lacks physical presence and body language. It's something that I've noticed a little bit now, like not so much, but I think coming out of the, because we're obviously still locked down in a lot of parts of the world.
Yeah.
It's something that I think is going to be interesting to look at from like a human communication perspective once the lockdown ends, because people have gotten used to interacting via camera, they've gotten used to interacting via voice almost exclusively. You still get some basic human to human interaction, but it's significantly lessened. So I think what you're saying, to tie it back to this, I think there's a benefit to it, because you do develop communication skills, you get used to people slinging abuse at you, and you also do meet good people a lot of the time. But the downside...
A lot of times a strong word, but yeah.
The downside is that you don't get quite as much of that human-to-human interaction, and like it's staggering how much of our communication is done through subtle gestures and body language. So I think maybe like if you've already lived your life and that part of your brain is developed just fine, but I think there's a definite downside to especially very young people growing up with most of their communication happening online. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was kind of a long-winded way to make that point, but...
Yeah, no, I actually understand the point. I did have a little bit of a chortle, because when you said subtle body language, and I just thought of segment 3, and I thought it's not going to be very subtle, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not subtle at all, believe me.
But yes, do you have anything else?
No, I think
you want to pull up.
we're kind of at the we're at the 36-minute mark now, so
The pinnacle.
yeah. God damn it. Let's wrap up segment 1 there. Yeah. Any final thoughts before I close this out?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the TMCJ podcast. This has been segment 1, our topics segment, and you will hear us again momentarily for segment 2, media.